Hi everyone, I'm Dumi.
And I'm Rumi.
And we are the Afro-Minimalists.
So we're going to be talking about how we came out to ourselves. So consider this to be like the part 2 of the first how we came out video. If you haven't watched it, please check it out. And yeah.
So in this video, we're going to be talking about our identities. And we're going to tackle identity politics, internalized homophobia, and
just how to deal with it.
Yeah, basically. That's what this video is about. So,
okay, so how do you identify?
Ooh. Okay, hear me out. So, I identify as a femme non-binary person who is also demi-bisexual and also homo-romantic.
Okay, alright.
It's a mouthful, but...
So, femme, non-binary, demi-bisexual, homo-romantic.
Yes.
Is there a short way to say this?
Lesbian.
Okay.
For me.
For you. Okay, I identify as an androgynous, non-binary lesbian.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
Simple.
Nice. Alright.
So I guess we can start with what does non-binary mean to you and to me, because we have that in common. So what do you mean when you say non-binary?
It just never felt right. It wasn't right being identifying as either man or womanhood or manhood or just femininity or masculinity. I never felt like I don't know what you people feel when you're like, I'm a woman. I don't feel that. I don't necessarily feel what you say when you say I'm a man. I don't feel that. I do present myself in a way that would be considered feminine because I like it. But I also like presenting myself in masculine manners as well. I don't feel any affinity towards any gender specifically. I like to switch it up often. An example, when I think I sort of knew when I was non-binary was when I was in primary school, when in English I would write all my essays or anything we had to do in writing. I would never just pick a she or her pronoun, him, her. It was either they, them, or she/he every single time. I didn't care. I was like, hey, it's over the word count. Hey, it's a little too much writing. I didn't care. I was like, no, this picking one just didn't make sense for me. And I didn't realize it until recently, but that's what I mean by being non-binary.
Okay, that's very insightful.
Thank you.
It's long.
It's a lot.
Okay, but I understand with non-binary. I guess it's kind of the same, right? I just wasn't as creative as you when it came to schoolwork because I needed the marks. So I guess for me, it's always been the thing of people confusing whether I'm a boy or a girl. People would be like, you act like a boy, but you're a girl. My mom would be like, sit like a girl, and I'm like, I don't know what that means. I never really identified with being a girl, but then when someone called me a boy, I'd get offended still. Now I don't care, like, you can use whatever you want. I think the worst time in my experience as a human being has been growing boobs, right? I used to be very confident and very, I was an active, happy child. Well, happy child. And the moment I grew boobs, it kind of really restricted me in my being. I just felt less like myself, and I just really hated these things. So it really affected my posture and my confidence, just basically the way I was. I really went back into my shell the moment I started growing boobs. It took a while, like from the age of, I don't know, when did I start growing boobs? 12? From the age of 12 up until when did I start going to gym? 20. So from 12 until 20, I really was just in my shell, and it literally was because I had boobs. So I come to university and people are exposing me to all these things of you don't have to be a girl or a boy, you can just be a person. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, this makes sense. So I don't like boobs, but I love my vagina. I have very masculine tendencies more than I have feminine tendencies, but I can still be feminine. So I guess that's where the androgyny and non-binary comes together.
Yeah, the misconception when it comes to attraction is that you only have sexual feelings with people, and that also translates into having romantic feelings with them. But if you've had friends with benefits, that's not true, right? That's not true. You can have emotional attraction to people and sexual attraction. It's just like how there's different types of loves. Like there's agape and eros, and those are the only ones I remember. But it's the same. People can have either sexual or romantic feelings for attraction to people. And for me, as a bisexual person, I feel sexual attraction to people of different genders. It can be non-binary, it can be a woman or a man, whatever they identify as. I can feel that sexual attraction. I'm homo-romantic because I very much am a femme non-binary person who feels attraction emotionally for women. I feel attraction for women. When I put that together, I sort of wasn't sure what to exactly call myself. But because, when I stacked the odds, it mostly was like, I have more, my attraction is more towards women aligning people. But it isn't also just women aligning people. So the best way I can sort of like explain it is that I am attracted to masculine energies, whether it's sexually I'm attracted to masculine energies, whether it's a man or a woman, but it's best when it's masculine energies in a woman. So that's basically it. So that's why I identify as a lesbian, because majority of my attraction is towards women. That's how I feel. I don't know if that makes sense.
Does it make sense to you?
It does. I mean, another misconception is that lesbian means a woman who is only attracted to women, which is not true. It's just historically lesbians are women that are attracted to women, not only attracted to women. So even if you look at the history of Sappho, she wasn't what people would consider being lesbian today. So yeah, that's me.
To me, I guess I call myself a lesbian, even though I don't identify as a woman. I call myself a lesbian because I'm a person with an external vagina who is sexually attracted to people with external vaginas, right? I'm definitely extra attracted to femininity, right? So it doesn't matter like what's attached to the femininity, but I will, it just gets me excited when I see, a particular brand of feminine energy. I really feel attracted to it, but I pursue it when it's attached to a vagina.
Okay. Interesting. Does that exclude trans women?
I mean, trans women are women, right? So definitely if the trans woman has that brand of feminine energy that is my type, I will definitely be attracted to it. Whether we'll have sexual connection really depends on whether there's a vagina or not.
So you are homo-romantic also, but vagina sexual? I don't know.
So I'm like a homosexual, homo-romantic. I don't know. I feel like, because you don't have to have a vagina for me to be romantic with you, but you have to have femininity for me to be romantic with you. So, and sexually it can only be with a vagina. So homosexual, yeah. And I guess pan-romantic. But femme-romantic, can that be a term? Can I say
I think there are terms for these things, but I was like, yo girl, it's a lot.
It's a lot. Like, wow.
So a lot of how I came to identify has a lot to do with internalized homophobia. Like, I won't go too deeply into it, but it took me a while to get to where I am today. Like, I wasn't even bisexual before I was straight. When I was a kid, I felt attraction to everyone, I think. I don't know. I didn't really differentiate. I think everyone was just the same to me. And as I grew up, I learned that, same sex, same gender attraction is bad. And I sort of was just like, okay, I'm straight. And I just proceeded to date men. Very masculine men also. Like, if you look at my exes, it's just
a mess.
It's a mess. I would have encounters with women. I would, there were a few orgies. I mean, were they orgies? I don't know.
How do you not know if it's an orgy?
I didn't know if it was an orgy. It's just like when girls are in a room together and you lock them alone, it just weird things happen. So that happened twice in my life. And it still didn't click. I was just like, it was that whole mentality of like, oh, women can kiss other women and it doesn't mean anything. Like, even at that point, I didn't even consider it sex because women can't have sex with each other. That's not a thing. It's not real sex. So
people still believe that,
sadly. But apparently I had a moment in all of my life where I just kept coming out to my friends, but I forgot. It's like gay amnesia. I had gay amnesia. I would be like, oh, I'm gay, and then I would forget about it because I didn't want to be gay, And when I came to university and I experienced university, girl, I couldn't deny it anymore. Like, girl, I remember when I met her and I was explaining my whole life to her. I was telling her my life story, and when we started talking about like sex, because that's a big worry when you're a heterosexual woman and you're afraid to be with other women. You're like, oh, the sex is not going to be good. And I was like,
it's not going to be real.
It's not going to be real. And I was like, oh yeah, my clit doesn't work. It doesn't work. Like, it's just one of those things. Girl, that have a work. that she works a little too well.
Okay, moving on.
So yeah.
So it's not that kind of video.
I'm just letting you know.
It's not that kind of video. So I guess my internalized homophobia was mostly from church. I was raised in the church, like most Africans. And yeah, it's tough, like they really drill in. Like, we have a very vivid image of what hell looks like, and we know that gays are definitely there, right?
It's lit. It's not like
which one?
the hell.
Oh, I heard it's hella lit though. It's like you're gonna end up in hell.
I heard
it's
hella lit up.
Yeah, so growing up in the church, I was like, okay, since God can do all things, right? And I was confused by my sexual identity and my gender identity and all these things, but I didn't know. I was just a kid. So I was like, okay, God can do all things, right? So God can make me a boy, right? In my head, I was like, oh, I want to be a boy. I didn't know why. I was just like, I need to be a boy. So I would pray, I'll be like, God, please make me a boy. I didn't. Never. Well, I guess, in a sense, God answered my prayers. Yeah, but I knew that I wasn't a girl, right? And I thought, oh, if I'm not a girl, then I have to be a boy, right? But then when I started being a boy, like in terms of mannerisms and all these things, it still didn't feel right. Right. Fine, I grow up and I'm like, okay, sit as a woman, do this as a woman. You're constantly being defined what being a woman is and how you should behave. Whereas if you go to a girls' only school that teaches you how to be ladies, which I did. Mistake. Kind of. Anyways, yeah, so it became a lot of like, I felt like I needed to date a lot of guys. Right, so I was never single. There wasn't a time since the age of 14 that I was not in a relationship with a guy. So it's funny because I'd be like, let me get into a relationship with a guy, right? So that I can date, so that I can be with a girl. So I would have a guy. The moment I have that guy, I would go and I'd look for a girl, and I would be sexually doing things with her. And then the girl would be like, oh my gosh, that's so hot. How guys are like, girls, ooh, that's so hot. Until they realized that I actually had genuine feelings, for the woman. I don't know. But when it gets real, when they actually see, oh my gosh, this is real, they actually care about this person, they'll be like, nah, you need to stop, whatever. And I wouldn't. Like, I always choose the girl over the guy, right? And then the guy would dump me, right? Then in my head, I was like, oh, no, I have to dump the girl until I find another guy. So then I'll find a guy, and then I can go back to, being with girls. And then I get to university, and, you're liberated because now you're not in the clutches of the society you grew up in. There's diversity. And your mind is just opened up, and I got to experience so many different people in so many different forms, and it gave me the chance to explore myself, and come to terms with things, like just accepting myself the way I was, to be like, it's okay to just be with a girl, it's fine. You don't have to compensate by being with a man so that you can validate your love for the woman, I don't know. It took a long time to accept that it's like your feelings for women are valid. You don't need a guy to be like, okay, this is okay, in a and then so now I'm like getting into the whole, I'm gay, I like women, and I have a vagina, and I like people with vaginas. And then I'll get into a relationship with straight women because it happens. As a lesbian, it happens. And they would expect me to behave in a masculine way because that's what they used to. They used the binary of there must be a man and there must be a woman in the relationship. So then I felt a lot of pressure to present myself and act in a certain way, and I felt uncomfortable still. But I forced myself because I was like, as a lesbian, this is how you're supposed to behave, So now there was this even more like self-inflicted homophobia by trying to fit myself into this box of what it should mean to be gay, and feeling I'm not gay enough, I'm sure you felt like that before.
I feel like that all the time.
I just feel like I'm not gay.
Yeah, because I'm femme, I guess, I don't look gay. Like if we're ever in the club, girls will hit on her, except in Pride. I guess in Pride, the person's gay, but when we're out, people will hit on her.
Taking you to Pride.
I love Pride. People will hit on her more than they'll hit on me because I feel like, I don't look gay. And I don't know how to make myself look gay, except, be masculine. But I don't want to be masculine presenting just because, to look gay. I feel like I look gay as look. I'm gay. How am I supposed to do it? Should I wear rainbow makeup? Is that what y'all
you can do the eyebrow thing.
Do the eyebrow.
Yeah, that's like I was thinking of, like the eyebrow thing.
Or get a piercing, like here, like, I don't know, but
don't do that to your face.
Yeah. So that's been an issue.
It has been an issue. So it's still like a lot to work through, and especially even with like gender identity, like the politics, people like gatekeep certain, terms.
Yeah, like I think an issue that I've encountered as I don't call myself a bisexual lesbian, but these are two terms that I can often, identify with. And people are like, that's what's that word? You're invalidating by calling yourself these things, you're invalidating lesbians or bisexual people. And I'm like, no, I never said anything about anybody else's experience. I'm just saying for me, these words apart do not make enough sense. Calling myself bisexual would not necessarily encompass everything that I feel. Calling myself lesbian would not encompass everything I feel, so for me it's just not enough to just be separate. These things for me are the same. And I get it that people will think, this doesn't make sense, but it doesn't have to make sense to you. It doesn't.
Yeah.
And the whole purpose of language is so we can communicate, and what I'm trying to communicate to you is that I feel these things at the same time. I really do. I know it's funny because as just LGBT, we run from the binaries that, heteronormativity has, provided for us. We come into the space and we're gay, but then we also try to enforce those very same binaries on these identities that we've created. Like, you just have to be a lesbian or you have to be gay. And there's a lot of biphobia also.
Yeah.
So this thing of like, you have to be a woman and you have to be a man. And there's TERFs who don't think trans women are women. And it's just like, guys,
This is not the space.
It's a spectrum. You know, it's a spectrum, guys. It's very difficult to just be one thing. We are people, and I believe that people change. And you know,
like you can be more than one thing at the same time.
10 years ago, I was straight, you know, and now I'm a lesbian, and that's really it. Have I always been a lesbian? Maybe, you know, but what I identify with now has changed, and that is just true to the journey that I'm on right now. And being straight was true to the journey I was on back then.
Amen. Yeah. Words are just tools for us to use, you know, to just better communicate with people around us, you know. They're not meant, you shouldn't let the words like control your life, you know. You're using the words to take control of your life. Don't force yourself to fit into a box. You can be many things at once. You can be one thing. You can be anything, really, as long as it is true to you. Don't be afraid to change. Be open to change. We are people. We evolve. We grow. So be open to that. And your contribution to humanity is yourself. You know, you just have to be you. And you don't have to explain it to anybody, right? But you have to contribute yourself at your fullest potential, whatever that means to you, to humanity, you know. Just do us that service of being yourself. We love you.
Okay, girl.